Support for the Dice Tower comes from listeners like you, and from TheOp, also known as USAopoly, and from GameNerds.com. Thanks for your support. The Dice Tower, episode 726.
Our top 10, shut up, Eric, trash-talking games.
What'd I say? Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, Suzanne joins Tom and me to answer questions from the mailbag about potential board game decathlon events, expansions that jump the shark, and whether everything in board gaming has been done. Then we finish the show with our top 10 games conducive to trash talk. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Rowdy Roddy Piper and Charlotte Flair to my Michael Buffer, Tom Vassell, and Suzanne Sheldon.
Thank you. I'm actually a little jealous because Michael Buffer has a fantastic voice.
Let's get ready to rumble! I love it.
That's pretty much the only thing I know that he said.
That's it. I can't do any other Michael Buffer.
If I could be really honest, though, because back in the day, right? You remember when it was the WWF, like the old cartoon and all that good stuff?
Sure.
Going back, I gotta say, if I were gonna be a wrestler, you know who I'd want to be? None of this Charlotte Flair stuff.
Okay.
I want to be Andre the Giant.
Ah, yes. Well, Andre the Giant's a movie star.
Fair.
So, The Rock, Rock's a movie star.
Folks, this is a show about board games. You may not know that. I'm Tom Vassell.
Hi there, I'm Eric Summerer.
And I'm Suzanne Sheldon, sneaking in.
Woohoo!
All right, well, I was going to say welcome back to the summer, but it's technically, I guess it's technically
We're
summer.
We're still technically in the summer, but I am flabbergasted that we're in September. I don't know how that happened, that we've gotten like 2/3 of the way through 2021 already.
Have you, as a child, did you ever consider September summer? I did not.
No, because
there's school
starts,
summer.
It's over, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But you know what? I'm not so sad about school starting up again, and I don't know why that is, but it just seems to make me happy this time of year. I used to look forward to it and dread.
It makes the house more quiet.
Yeah, well, either way, gaming is in session, and we were just talking before it started. There's no real gaming seasons going on right now, in a sense that there's just constant games coming out all the time. Although, obviously, the general news story of 2021 is your game is going to be late.
Yes.
There's just no way around that. In fact, by the time you hear this, I will have sent out a Kickstarter update to the Dice Tower saying your promos will be later than I anticipated. Not my fault, I promise. But yes, everything is being delayed everywhere. But you know what's good? There's 20,000 plus games already existing.
Yes, that we're going to have to live with because that's what we're going to get for the rest of the year.
No, there's games coming. It's just it's a slower burn. I do wonder if we're going to suddenly have in somewhere like halfway through 2022, suddenly, 200 Kickstarters will deliver in the same week. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm still keeping an eye because I'm starting to wonder if some Kickstarters will ever deliver at this point. But I'm staying positive.
Sure.
I know. Suzanne's trying to bite her lip because she could talk about this for a long time.
A long, long time. But I think what is heartening is the vast majority of people as gamers and consumers who get kind of wrapped up in some of this stuff, especially with Kickstarter fulfillment. For every publisher I see having to give their regrets, we're so sorry, but we can't get a container for less than $20,000. I see a lot of sympathy and empathy and patience from the community for those publishers, and that's really heartening to see. People want publishers to succeed. People want these games to be awesome, and they want the games. And hopefully most people can maintain a little bit of perspective that we're still in the middle of a massive pandemic, and there are just so many forces in play far outside the control of any one entity. And I'm seeing a lot of understanding around that, and that's a good thing.
Yes, yes.
Alrighty. Well, speaking of that, we have a lot of games to talk about. I'm assuming that we'll hear about some interesting games here. Well, I don't know why I said that. Obviously, I know what the games are. So let's get started. What have you been playing lately, Suzanne?
Hey, well, I got a massive box of games from Japan because I worked with some friends and to help pick up pre-orders from the Tokyo Game Market. I'm finally getting to crack into those as my fully vaccinated gaming friends in the area and I are getting together. So the first one of that kind of collection I finally managed to get to the table is Rise of the Metro. This is from Nanawari Games, and it's designed by Aiko Oyama and Toru Oyama. And when you look at the box, it's this tall, thin box, and it's got this really cool isometric art on it that looks nothing like the game when you open the box.
Oh, no.
Which is fine, because really this is a pretty minimalistic, basically abstract game around a metro theme. So you're going to get this board that folds out, and it looks like a map, and it's got real subtle grid marks on it that is where you're going to put your rail lines. And just like so many games that use trains, you get those little sticks that represent roads or train lines in a ton of board games, right? And every player gets their own set of colors. And then there's these little discs that represent the stations. You're going to randomly seed, and actually the seeding of the station locations is kind of cool. And then y'all just start taking turns laying down your metro. Now, metro lines, you can only have one. They can't branch off. You want them to connect, that kind of thing. You just take turn, place down a thing. It has to follow the grid lines appropriately. There you go. Now, different rail lines can share the same leg between two spots. And where that gets interesting is when they intersect with those stations, because the more rail lines that intersect with a station, the more points that station will be worth at the end of the game. So as you're manipulating and dropping these little sticks, these little rail lines across the board, you're really paying attention to what other players are doing, and you're doing some kind of on-the-fly math about, okay, if I put this one here, that's going to elevate it to a level 2. And you actually get different colored discs, and they stack up on each other. So you can kind of quick glance and realize that, oh, this station's already a higher level, that kind of thing. And so you're doing that quick math as you're picking and choosing where you're going. You're calculating, oh, I can't get to that station, and Tom and Eric already are there, so I'm going to go in a different direction, that kind of thing. Game ends when everybody's got their train pieces out, and you score all your station connections that you managed to make, and the highest score wins. It's a very simple game, and ultimately it feels very, very abstract, and it's cool. It's very chill, but it is interesting as you're going through this. I personally really like the minimalistic look and how the game looks as you're expanding with all these different colored rail lines, metro lines, and things like that. So I really liked Rise of the Metro. I thought it was a simple but clever game with that station mechanism, and I'm glad I picked it up all the way from Japan. Now, if you want to check this out, there is a store in the US that helps import some of these games called Big Cat Games. This isn't like paid promotion. It's just like the owner is like one of the only people making this effort to bring these games over. And I know she made an attempt to get this game. So you might be able to find a copy there if you want to check it out. Rise of the Metro.
Very really got to be careful on this show not to say it's interesting, because a few people here use it as code for it's terrible.
Oh, okay. I mean, fair point. I just say what I mean, though.
I get it.
Oh, is it my turn now?
I can't help that some of you don't.
All right. First up for me is a game called Shake Up, talking about playing some games that are older. This one's from a couple years ago, 2019 it came out. The designer is Dominic Michael H., and the publisher is Medieval Lords. I don't know what else they've produced, but this is a small box 2-player deck shedding game. They call it a reverse deck building game. The theme is that you're
deck deconstruction.
Yeah, deck deconstruction game. You are running a company. And you start out with identical decks. You and your opponent have identical decks that represent the people in your company that can do various jobs. But all of those cards have some sort of cost, their salary for having them in your deck. You also start out with a few loan cards. There's these money cards that if they're one side, it's your income. And if they're on the other side, it is a loan that is taking away money from your company. And your job is to get your company to be profitable. And you start out with 0 income and $6,000 in loans and a whole deck full of employees. Every turn, you're going to get 4 cards, and you can play these cards to cause cool stuff to happen, like gaining more income or getting rid of some of your debt. Or you can also upgrade your characters. All the cards are dual-sided, and they come in sleeves, which are included in the game. So if you upgrade a card, you remove it from the sleeve, turn it over so that the other side is now on top, and now they might have a better salary or have a more powerful ability, something like that. You've upgraded them. There are some cards that also even do nothing when they're just basic in your hand, but if you upgrade them, they're like an investor card, and suddenly that's going to get you a bunch of money one time when you first upgrade them. Your opponent is doing the same thing as well, though, and there are some attack cards, which is going to cause you to lose some of your income or you to gain more loans and all of that. The real trick is that you can't look through your loans or your income piles. You know what the top card is, but you're not allowed to look at them because it's like a gut check when you decide to audit your company. Whenever your deck runs out, you're allowed to say, okay, I think I won. And you have to do all this math to look through your deck and total up your salaries. And I didn't mention, you also are laying off these cards, removing them from your deck. So every turn you can remove 1 card from your hand. If you want, there are also other cards that let you do that more than once. So that's one way you're thinning your deck to make it less expensive. So you call an audit, you have to total up your entire deck, total up all of your liabilities, and then if your income exceeds that or matches it, you win. If you don't, you get a pretty nasty penalty and the game continues. There's also a way to win if you've upgraded 12 or more of your employees, but same thing, you're not allowed to look through your deck first. You have to say, I'm going for a technical audit, and I think I won. Mechanically, I think it's interesting. However...
See what I'm saying?
However, the theme, I think that I have a problem with the theme. You know, you got these nice, cute illustrations from an artist named Franco Egalite. These cartoony people, and they're like all smiling at you. I'm your sales representative, or I'm your CEO in disguise. And you're actually like getting rid of them out of your deck in order to make the company profitable, which just sort of, I don't know, doesn't feel great. You can rehire them, but you often don't want to. And there's just a ton of math at the end because the totals are like 1s, 2s, 3s, a 5 or 2, and you're just like totaling up this whole deck of cards at the end of the game to see if you manage to get enough. There's also a solo game, which I have played, and that one seems a little samey and ends in weird ways. If you run out of loan cards, the game just ends and you've lost. Whereas if you're playing a 2-player game and it ends that way, you actually total up and see who has a better score. It's just odd. And I end up thinking, as interesting as the mechanisms are, I don't know if this one's going to see a lot of playtime on my table. Shake Up, a reverse deck builder, is probably just over the line to not recommend for me.
So it's horrible. But I like it. So there's that. So let's go to one. I'll try to be a little clearer here. So this game is called Almadi. This was just released. It's from Funny Fox publisher. And
oh, yeah. This one looked interesting.
Actually, I don't think it looks interesting.
Uh-oh.
I mean, the game itself is interesting. Don't get me wrong. I'll just spoil it. I really like it. Okay, I'll be clear on this. I just thought, it's Arabian Nights type background and camels and cat, and oases and placing tiles next to each other. And it's like, yeah, okay, I've seen this theme a gazillion times. Apparently, People just lined camels up at certain points in our past, and we're just not remembering it, and it's coming out in the form of game designers putting it in games. But the game is really fun. So it's designed by Francois Gandon, I think, and Mathel Basu. I messed up both those names, but one is the designer of Animix, and the other is the designer of Quadropolis.
Ah.
All right.
So
Francois designed Quadropolis.
Yes, and so what Almadi is, you are building a kind of a grid of tiles that you're going to be drafting from the middle of the table. There's 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one has 2 tiles, and you can, and they're just randomly put there from a pile of tiles that are the same size as Carcassonne. And these tiles are either markets, palaces, caravans, or oases. And you'll pick on your turn. You pick any of those 8, but whichever one you pick, you have to put it in that same numbered row in front of you. So you just can't put it anywhere. It has to go in that row. So you have to think about what you're going to put where. When you put the tile down, it's going to matter a little bit for endgame scoring because whoever has the biggest group of oasis tiles will get bonus points, and you want to have caravans next to each other, and you want palaces to be next to markets, etc. But more importantly, each tile has arrows on sides of it and symbols. And if you get an arrow to point at a symbol, you make that symbol happen. So that's fun. Some of the symbols are like get points at the end of the game, but some let you get a ruby, which you can use in the quote-unquote advanced game to buy special characters. Some give you market cards or mosaic cards, and some let you move a tile from one spot to anywhere else you want, which could cause more arrows to make things happen. And you could do that 3 times in a row. And you just keep going until everyone has taken 16 tiles. And then there's a bunch of scoring. It's a little bit of point salad, different ways to score. And I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. The tiles, fortunately, can only go in one direction. And I say that fortunately, there's like a little arrow on them to show which way. They always go the same direction. So that cuts down on analysis paralysis. Because if you could rotate the tiles when you're placing them, it would take all day. But what you're trying to do is you're thinking about these end game scoring conditions, but you're also saying, if I put this out, it matches 2 arrows, and I get to take those 2 actions, and then one of them is moving, and then I can move this other tile over here and get 2 more actions. There's just something about that I really enjoy. It's not an overly heavy game, but I played this one quite a few times now. It's very enjoyable. So that's Almadi, Almadi.
I love tile laying games that have those kind of adjacency rules, so I'm glad you like this one.
I don't think there's enough tile laying games out there, honestly. Everyone always like, oh, there's so many of them. Like, okay, so name one. Carcassonne. What else? Alhambra. What else? Almadi. You're done.
Hey, I love tile laying games, so bring them on.
I agree.
And hey, the game I'm about to talk about is kind of tile laying games, maybe with with cards. Happy City.
Segue.
Yeah, well, you know, I feel shame, but I don't feel shame at Happy City because it's happy and it's a city. This is in North America from Game Right Games. The designers are Toshiki Sato and Aru Sato, and it's a card game. And it's got adorable drawings on each of the cards that represent different buildings that you can put into your Happy City, like a theme park or an igloo or a shoe store. But the illustrations are really fun. Like the shoe shop looks like a building shaped like a shoe, that kind of thing. Yep. There's just fun, cute little details. And I mean, hey, if you're going to play a game like this, you might as well have something fun to look at. And on these cards, you're basically going to try to create a little tableau, a 2-row tableau in front of you as you gather these cards through purchase from a center area. And ultimately, the cards have a cost. They have income that they can potentially give you. And then they are going to have either like a little pawn shape, like not a meeple shape, but like a little, game pawn shape, or hearts on it. And at the end of the game, you're going to take all the cards in your tableau and you're going to multiply your hearts by your people, and that's your happiness score. And whoever has the happiest city wins the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's super duper cute. The way this works is that the cards have different values on them, and they're sorted out into 3 different decks based on their values. And then they kind of create this market area that you can pull the cards from. At the beginning of your turn, you actually can just discard one of the cards that are in the market, and then you as the active player gets to choose which of those decks you reveal new cards into the market from, which gets really interesting as you're thinking about the value of the cards and what they offer and the cost of the cards. So you are paying attention to what other people have going on, and you do sometimes find that you're playing the odds in terms of, well, I've got more money than you right now, so I'm going to go ahead and flip over some high value cards because I know you can't buy them right now.
Mm-hmm.
There are some bonus cards that are available, and it's first come, first serve. And they have different requirements. So maybe you need to have an orange style building, a purple style building, and a green style building. And then you have the option of adding that to your city if you want to. And it usually has some kind of end game scoring impact. And there's a variety of those as well. But really, Happy City is very, very simple and very, very quick to play. But there is a small bit of mathiness in those hearts and people as you're counting them up. And the difference of adding a card with another heart on it when you have a bunch of people versus upping your hearts and how that multiplies the people you have. Yeah, it has a really solid gameplay base. I have to admit, I was expecting something light. I wasn't sure what the game was going to be like, but I was very pleased with how much I've enjoyed Happy City. They actually have it on, like, I think it's Board Game Arena.
Yes.
And so that's where I first tried it. And I actually played it a couple times on Board Game Arena, and then I ordered a copy because that's how much I enjoyed it, and I knew I could play it with my family. But hey, I've been playing online with adults, and we've really enjoyed it as well. So Happy City from Game Right Games, it is a delightful building game, as it says on the box, and I would agree with that.
I liked it as well.
Oh, cool.
Playing it on Board Game Arena. I haven't played the physical version yet. So the Board Game Arena implementation is using the French version of the cards. So
yeah.
The illustrations, if you can't like wave your mouse over the cards and get the pop-up descriptions if you're playing on a tablet. And so I've been trying to figure out the French text on a few of them to figure out what I'm doing. It's a lovely presentation. I love the illustrations. It is certainly very simple to understand what's going on. My only complaint is I feel like it's a little short. Like just as I'm getting my stuff going, somebody ends the game with 12 cards in their tableau. I don't know whether it's just the table think, because there's an option to not purchase on your turn and just take another coin. And I think if you do that more often, you can sort of save up for, because if you fill your tableau with the inexpensive cards, you're not going to get a good score because it's all ones and twos that you're dealing with, whereas the higher value cards have 3 hearts on them or something. And so I think slowing it down is probably better for getting a better score. And most of the tables I've played with online, somebody's buying a card every turn, and so it's going to go the 10 turns.
Yeah, they're
going
to push that end game because the game ends when anybody fills their tableau.
Yes.
Let me offer a slightly dissenting opinion here. No. I like the game. I just gave it a positive review. But I suspect that the vast majority of people who are listening to this podcast are going to find this to be too light. It's really light.
It is.
It is ball off the table light, and I like it, but I personally wouldn't play it unless I was had some people over there and that didn't play many board games. Then this is amazing, and I would, I hope that it's going to be sold at Target and other places for this purpose. I agree with Eric that I think it ends a little early. There's some math in there that doesn't make sense to me as a gamer. Like, I find it weird that the cards you can buy without turning them over from the deck provide the same benefit as some of the cards you can flip over, but are cheaper, so they're better, which is like the opposite of every deck building game in existence. The ones that you can always buy are not as good as the ones that flip over.
But none of those provide happiness. They're all population cards.
Yes, but I'm talking about an exact 1-for-1 card.
Mm-hmm.
You flip over, that offers 2 population, and you can buy a 2 population card.
Right.
I also wonder, and it is now I'm in nitpick mode, but I wonder why they didn't just say, pick the lower of your 2 scores, hearts or population. It seems like it would have been easier for people. Because I want to play this with kids. This is easily a kid's game in a sense. I'm not saying it's only for kids, but I'm saying you could easily play this with kids. But there's that multiplication, right? And it just feels like they could have made it slightly easier. As it is, I just say try to get a lot of both. But yes, it's a great game, and I love the art. The art is fantastic.
It is great.
All right, second for me is another in the Exit series of games. This is one of the traditional versions of the Exit games. This one's called The Gate Between Worlds, which, if you've heard the show before, you know that I'm a fan of Stargate as a franchise. That's basically the plot of this Exit game. You have discovered this circular gate with rotating symbols, and it opens up, and you go from planet to planet, solving puzzles to open up the next gate. So you're sort of doing this chain of gates and trying to find your way home. The presentations, instead of having a booklet like most of the Exit games, you have little posters, mini posters, one that represents each world that you will visit. And then you're going to do your exit thing and find the codes and reveal cards and new clues and stuff. The gate itself, the code wheel that you use in Exit is actually like a standee in this version. It represents the gate that you are using to dial in and enter the codes. And there's actual physical things that the gate is going to do for you as a standing object on the table in this one, which is kind of cool. It does the Exit things in the sense that some of the puzzles you'll go, yeah, that was fantastic, and I really, that one clicked for me. And then others you're like, really? That's what you wanted me to do? There's a couple that, the difference between an S and a 5 really bothered me on this one, and it sent me down a direction I did not want to go down, and I was confused and finally had to look at the clues. But as I said the last time we talked about Exit, I don't care about time anymore. In fact, I did this while I was watching television, and over 2 days, when I had a couple minutes that I could start it, and then I just put it down and came back to it later, and it was fine. It was like a stroll through a escape room puzzle adventure, and I could just enjoy the puzzles when I had the time to do it. Who knows what my score was at the end? I do heartily recommend it, and I would love to see themed Exit games like a Stargate game. That would be great.
Oh, sure.
Imagine taking Jack O'Neill and Daniel Jackson on an adventure through Exit puzzles.
You just want to talk about Stargate.
This would be great.
I'm not allowing this.
I'm telling you. Anyway, Exit, The Gate Between Worlds, really enjoyed it.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever, either one of you, played an Exit game without using any clues?
Yes.
Yes. One of the easy ones, the House of Puzzles, House of Riddles. The House of Riddles, which I've said is like, I think Suzanne, you've said this too. That's an excellent entry into the series. And that one is very straightforward, and I did not need to use any of the hints for that one.
All right. The last game I have to talk about, folks, I'm very excited about because I love the theming of this game. It's called Picture Perfect. This is from Arcane Wonders. This is a game in which you are a photographer and you are taking a picture of a family who's a pain in the butt, to say the least. And in this game, you literally take a picture of the family with your phone at the end. You don't have to. Don't worry. You don't need a phone to play this game, but it's fun to do it. But you have a bunch of people, and they all have various opinions on how they want to be in this picture. So you have this table in front of you, and you build this little three-dimensional table and backdrop, and you have a bunch of standees for the different people. And so, all the different people, like Aunt Agatha, I'm just giving them names because I don't know what their names are. Aunt Agatha might want to stand next to the table, but also she wants to be next to the dog, and she wants it so that you can't see Cousin Sally's face. So all of them have 3 things. So at the beginning of the game, you shuffle this deck of like aspiration cards or things they want, and you stick 3 in an envelope for each person. Those are the 3 requirements that person wants. At the end of the game, you will score for each person, and you get 6 points if you get all 3, 3 points if you get 2, 1 point if you get 1, and you lose 3 points if you don't match any of them. You don't have to put someone in the picture. So I might look at someone's and what they want, and I'm like, you want to stand on the right and the left? No. I don't have time for this nonsense. I always stick mine under the table when I'm playing. They're not in the picture. So you get some envelopes at the beginning of the game. And then the game, there's 2 ways to play the game. The basic game, you flip over some cards and you essentially are like passing envelopes around. Pass an envelope to your left. Pass one to your right. Very basic. Once you go through 6 rounds, you range all your people, take a picture, and then everyone reveals their pictures and you score them. The slightly advanced game gives you things to put on the table, like champagne bottles and bowls of fruit and stuff. And some of the rounds, there's like auctions where you can say, all right, closed auction, everyone auctions off an envelope, and you use these items, and these items are worth a point for every 2 you have at the end of the game. You can also use these items to hide someone's face if necessary. And the thing about the camera is you can like tilt your camera and like, okay, this person's not in the picture at all from this angle, but I want to make sure this person can be seen. It's so thematic, right? I personally hate group pictures. I really do. There's always a few people who really care about it. And I don't know if you guys have ever been involved in pictures that have taken upwards of an hour.
Ugh.
And at the end, who cares? Just take some candid pictures, and we're done. We even did one on a cruise that one time. You remember?
That took a while. We're all staring into the sun. That was fun.
I do remember that. Anyway.
Gosh, I do too.
I don't want to. But that brings this to life, and it's funny. They're dressed. I'm pretty sure it's like a Victorian era kind of dress here. I'm not quite sure, but that's what it looks like. They're all dressed up fancy. And I'm just amused by the theme. And you know what? There's also one of the characters is a dog and one's a potted plant. And I find that funny that the potted plant also has opinions. And I played one game where the potted plant didn't want the dog to be seen. I was like, I know what that dog's been doing to the plant. Sorry, man. And it's not a heavy game by any means, but it is just fun. And it feels fresh. It feels like something different. So yeah, some of the people I played it with were like, yeah, it's okay. But others were just thrilled. And there was a lot of people, I explained the rules and instantly they liked the game before we even played.
Yeah.
And if you're listening right now, that probably has happened to you. You are like, maybe. But some of you are going, yes, I want to play this.
Yeah. I want to play this at a family game day. Mm-hmm. I want to arrange my actual relatives to play this game.
And then when they complain, you'll be like, that's what it's like in real life. I told you.
This was all to show you a lesson.
Anyway, it's picture perfect.
Support for the Dice Tower comes from TheOp, which has been creating games and memories for over 25 years. From party games like Telestrations and Blank Slate, to game night favorites like Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle and the Rising series, to new games like Hues and Cues, and kid favorites like Tapple. TheOp is a one-stop shop for game night. With games for friends and family, you can create your next game night memory with TheOp. And now, exclusively for Dice Tower listeners, we have 10% off your entire purchase at TheOp.games. This is available for all games, puzzles, and accessories with free shipping available on purchases of $49 or more. This offer is available for U.S. residents only. All you need to do is enter Dice Tower, all one word, at checkout. 10% off by entering Dice Tower at TheOp.games. Questions.
Well, Jerry from Indiana writes in and asks, I saw where the voice actor for the Harry Potter series, Jim Dale, had voiced 134 different characters in that series. What is Eric's record for number of voices spoken in an audiobook or series? What book or series was it? Thanks. Ooh, good question, Jerry.
Okay. Well, I had to do some research. I had to go back and look at some of my notes. And I'm not even sure that this is the most, if this is the record. But I went back to a sci-fi series I did that was 9 books. I did 9 books in this series. It's called Koban. And so in the 9 books, I'm actually curious to think what you two would guess would be my record for number of characters for this. So there are, humans traveling through space, meeting lots of alien races, and having, epic sci-fi adventures. Over these 9 books, how many speaking characters, do you think I had?
Oh, across all 9 books?
Across all 9 books.
200.
I'm afraid to answer this because I'm going to feel like you're going to try to beat the masterful Jim Dale, and I can't support that. So I'm going to say 133.
You can beat Jim Dale.
I did beat Jim Dale. It was 463.
I'm going to download this series and see how many of those voices are exactly the same.
You're going to individually count each one, huh?
Many probably are. A lot of them are one-liner characters. It's somebody who's introduced in one page and then dies in the next page. So, it's probably maybe 100 or so actual, real, long-standing characters that make it through multiple books. But that's still a lot. And anytime I've got a long series like that, it's almost like extra research. Anytime a new book comes out, I have to remind myself who all these people are and go back to my files. I actually have a whole shelf of character notes of books that I've done over the years. And so it's tricky to come back after being away for a while.
Jim Dale, you're still my hero.
He does have a few more awards than I do. Bill asks, if the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, decided to declare board games as a sport, they won't, says Bill, and called you for advice, they probably wouldn't, says Bill.
Says Tom.
What 10 games would you put in the board game decathlon? I figure they have to have different genres and mechanisms and definitive winners. I don't want the Russian judge giving anyone a 3 because who knows who could be meddling behind the Russian judges. Anyway, what would you put in the decathlon? I guess you could maybe stack up games and try and jump over them. If you put lots of...
Got it, Eric.
You've got it? You've got this figured out?
No, I don't have the games because that's not important. I have the genres.
Okay.
All right, so we would have to have a dexterity game
I'm with that.
in there, a negotiation game of some sorts, probably Cosmic Encounter, a worker placement style game because there's so many out there, and we want to lean towards, we want some heavier Euro style games in there. I'm sorry. Did I say worker placement? Yep. Sorry, I wrote WOR. A word game is what I meant there.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll come back to worker placement. A word game, because they're very popular. A party game. Okay, party games are games too. A war game. It doesn't have to be heavy. A lighter war game would be fine. Abstract strategy. 2 different Euro games because I believe that genre is so broad. So like a worker placement, maybe a deck building game.
So is that 9 events then, or is that 8? Like 2 Euro games?
That's 8. 2 Euros. I have a Ameritrash style game, maybe something from CMON. And then I wrote CAR. Oh, a card game. Sorry. A card game. Like a trick-taking game, probably. And I feel that would cover the vast majority of genres. And you would have to be good at all of them.
So you're saying that Pick Up and Deliver would be one of the 2 Euro games? Because I don't see that on the list.
Yeah, and where was the roll and write section?
Well, that's its own event.
Okay, well, I'm not really prepared for Eric's questions because it's just atrocious that anyone would ask that. I did know Suzanne was going to ask for roll and write, and my response is don't care.
Wow.
Sorry.
Dismissive much? I'm registering a complaint.
Roll and writes is for the
IOC.
Roll and writes is for the amateur junior leagues. We're talking about the Olympics here.
Wow.
I can just see like competitive international apples to apples, and that would be something.
You know what? This is a really interesting question. Remind me about this in, say, 2 months. I have some more thoughts on this that I can't really talk about right now. But
okay.
Yeah, that's a leading thing, but we'll see. I'll tell you off air, Eric.
Sure.
Moritz, not our Moritz.
Oh.
I looked at his last name. Moritz says he talks about how people talk about series or movie franchises that jump the shark, and For those of you who might be outside of America, it's a long story. I don't feel like going into it. You can look it up on Wikipedia, but essentially it's gotten ridiculous. It's like a term for something has gotten just ridiculous at this point. We used to take it seriously. It used to be good, and now it's ridiculous. So do we think the same phenomenon can be observed for board game lines with lots of expansions? If so, what are some examples that come to your mind?
Catapult!
Dominion?
You know, I want to argue with you so much, but Eric's right.
That's the one that immediately jumped to mind. Carcassonne, the Catapult, when you start flinging meeples onto the board, it's just so different from what the base game was. It's just odd.
You're actually you're flinging. You're not flinging the meeples. It's tokens.
Oh.
But yes. Some of us have played it. Some of us own it, you know. I still have it. I shan't get rid of it.
Some say that Alvin and Dexter was that for Ticket to Ride, but they sort of recovered. That was sort of people sort of forget about Alvin and Dexter, the monsters that destroyed cities in Ticket to Ride.
Suze, you said Dominion?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Which expansion specifically, though? I can probably agree that at some point it's just too many.
Fair question, and I can't answer it because I just gave, no, I don't know.
I know
They
Alchemy
just keep on
tended to be
coming.
one
They don't stop.
Yeah. I was going to say Terraforming Mars, but I couldn't say where exactly that went too far.
Maybe when they decided to sell us a box. But I know, I get it, folks. I know people like the box and everything. Yeah, sometimes there's just silliness. I think things, quote unquote, jump the shark. Like, I think what Catan is doing right now, where they're selling socks and all kinds of weird stuff, and they're like, ooh, look at this. That's a little bit, to me, like, okay, we get it. You know, you made this. And I'm going to be very oblique here, but there are a lot of companies who take certain franchises, they got the rights to a franchise or something, and they're like, let's run it into the ground. How many games can we make with this IP? The answer is not enough.
So Moritz also asked, is there an example of this trend reversing itself, though? Is there a later expansion that sort of saves the franchise?
Well, he used Mad Max Fury Road as an example in the movies, but that's kind of more of a reboot than like saving the franchise, because they waited 20 years or so before they came out.
It's all the same universe.
No, I get that, but the same thing could be said here. Like, for example, they just redid Dune, 40 years after it came out. But speaking of Dune, you remember a day when they had a hard time finding that IP?
I know, that was weird.
Six Dune games are coming out.
The Herbert estate ran out of money.
I don't think they're going to run out of money after this movie, but we'll see. An expansion that righted the franchise? I'm sure people are going to yell at us for missing something obvious, but I can't think of one.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard of expansions that you never want to play without, right? You like the base game, but then this expansion comes and either fixes a problem in the first game or whatever, but from a franchise point of view or an ongoing point of view, a big series, I can't think of anything.
Usually those must-have expansions are the first expansion.
Right, exactly.
They're usually the elements that got stripped out of the first version of the game. The designer's like, here's the game. And they're like, this is too complicated. Okay, we'll remove these 4 things. And that'll be the first expansion. And it tends to be the first thing that gets released. It's not the 8th expansion that's the must-have expansion.
Yeah.
Maybe Prosperity, if we're going to go back to Dominion.
That was the 3rd expansion, though.
Was that really the 3rd?
Yeah, and the first 2... No, it's the 4th. Sorry, Alchemy. It's the 4th, but I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about. Maybe you folks can go onto our forums and or Facebook group and give us your thoughts.
All right, Tom and Eric, do you get more excited by brand new mechanisms or by subtle reworkings of well-established mechanisms like the place one, take one, and Raiders of the North Sea? Do you think that there is a limit to the number of possible base mechanisms, and will we eventually just see small iterative changes on them? Have you imagined any new mechanisms yourselves that you would like to see in board games? And that's from James.
Well, James didn't know you were in this podcast, so it's also to you. I am more excited by new stuff for sure. I mean, subtle reworkings, I can sit there and go, oh, I like that, and that makes me happy. But something new, I sit there and go, ooh.
Yeah, like, well, the subtle revision is intellectually stimulating. You're like, yeah, that's a cool thing. But you get excited emotionally about a new mechanism you've never seen before.
I do not think there's a limit to the number of base mechanisms. Everyone always asks me all the time, like, do you think everything is done? There will be no more innovation? Like, come on, of course there will be. But I can't tell you what it would be, or else I would have the very big popular game. And that's my question. Have I imagined new mechanisms? No. I was thinking about this on the way home today because I was thinking about a game, and I was like, wow, what's a new thing? I'm going to think of something right now. And I couldn't. So
it's a worker placement game you play with your feet.
Okay. Hey, there you go, Eric.
You have to stand there.
Just please don't call the game footsie.
It's Twister, actually.
Oh, okay. I don't know, guys. It's one of those things. I think all of us have played so many games across our lifespans, right? That unique, different. I personally just really, really value that in a game. And even if it's not perfect, or if I can kind of pick through the game and go, well, this, or that, I just didn't but it brings something that sparks something fresh. I really, really highly value that in a game, because as wonderful as iterative changes can be, something fresh is pretty exciting.
So Adam says, it finally happened. My 3-year-old saw a box that he liked at our friendly local gaming store, so we purchased and played our very first board game, Dinosaur Escape from Peaceable Kingdom. It warmed my heart to be teaching my kid a game, rolling a die, and learning how to take turns. We play it a little light for even the kids' rules, but he loves it, and we have a great time. Do you remember the first game any of your kids played? Are there any especially memorable or defining games with your families, especially when they were young? I know I've sort of talked about this stuff a little bit here on the show. For a while, my eldest was just playing with the games as toys, especially the early Haba stuff. But the first one that I remember actually playing by the rules was Monza, a Haba title with the racetrack, and you're rolling dice and matching colors to move around the track. And that was the first one that he actually understood what we were doing and could play along with the full rules and had a good time doing so. And it was neat to see that spark, moving beyond simply just playing with the wooden bits and actually learning a rule set.
For me and my children, similar, Eric, in a lot of ways. Monza was a huge hit. Along the same time period, though, Zitternix, also from Haba, was a big hit in my game. And this is kind of a pick-up sticks game where you get a set of sticks in different diameters that are blue, red, or yellow. And you bundle them up, and then you get a wooden ring that goes down around them. And then you kind of fan them out.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just pull sticks out one at a time. And when the ring falls, when the bundle of sticks loosens up enough that the ring falls, the game's over. And whoever has the most points and sticks wins. Dead simple. We played that a ton and had a lot of fun with it. So that and Monza are probably our two early ones.
I actually don't know the first game with all my kids. I remember playing Yummy with Melody 20 some years, 19 years ago. But I do remember like some great moments of games. I remember when they get it. Sometimes they sit around and watch games. Jimmy will sit around and watch us play games, but he and I also have had a great time playing games. So I can pick top 10 games maybe. But the first one, I don't remember, but I'll tell you what, they're playing games with kids is spectacular. It's not required to have a great time with your kids. I always have to be hesitant to say that because, you can do lots of great things with your kids. I just watched a TV show with my kids, and that was fantastic fun. But yes, playing games with kids is amazing.
All right, it's time to see who's going to win this top 10 list. I think you two are going down.
In your face!
Bring it on.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is brought to you by Game Nerds at GameNerdz.com.
All right, trash talking. This is something that I'm now cognizant of. I try to trash talk in all games because it's fun. It's silly. Like, I'm going to destroy people. I have found not everyone enjoys it. And so now I try to feel the room out.
Yes, it is certainly something that you can come on a little strong if you're not careful in reading the room before you start. It's always good to start with some light trash talk before you just go to town.
So we're talking about games here that make this, or just naturally happens. I assumed that we were picking games we enjoyed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
No.
See, I love it when you make a comment like this at the beginning,
Yeah,
and then it's like, what is he talking about? Which one on my list?
Well, no, I just was asking. For no reason at all. But I just picked mine. I put mine in order of like the kind of amount of trash talking, and then I double thought my list, and I'm not happy with my list at the end of the day. This seems like a hard one to do because again, I unless the game's like a abstract strategy or very thinky or quiet puzzle game, I tend to do it in a lot of games, even if I'm clearly in last place.
Heck, I make cooperative games, trash talking games, so I get you, Tom.
Yeah, you're right. You're sitting there.
Why are you not helping the team well enough?
Yes, it's amazing. It's very fun.
I'm a better employee of the month than you are.
You get it, Eric. You get it. See?
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot of games to go through, so here we go.
Number 10.
I'm going to kick things off with Strike, the silly dice rolling in a bowl game where one player can have some really lucky rolls and just be way in the lead, but there is a mechanism that if you manage to clear the bowl of all the dice, the next player in sequence has to roll all of their dice. So if you clear the bowl before the person who's in the lead and have a ton of dice, you get to laugh at them and cheer for them to get as many X's as possible and remove a bunch of dice and really turn the tables in a game of Strike. Number 10.
I did
Love
say
it.
games here, but all right, cool.
Oh, golly.
All right, we're going to move on. You going to call mine not a game, Tom?
No, I have no problems with most of your list.
Oh.
Oh, boy. Kemet. I love Kemet. It's a troops on a map, area control game. And typically, I actually think in larger player count games, the heavier they are, the less conducive they are for trash talking. But there's just something about Kemet. And I think it's the fact that it's all about aggression. Kemet is a game that you are not rewarded for turtling and focusing on defense. You really are rewarded from the game to be aggressive and take over areas and attack. And hey, if I'm attacking you, I'm trash talking you. I love Kemet. It's a great trash talking game.
Good choice, Suzanne. All right, no, I'm serious. That's a good choice. I considered this myself. My number 10 is Dune Imperium, because at the end of every round in Dune Imperium, there's a battle, and as people are playing, they're throwing troops out there, and you're like, back off. I already have this. You do not need to throw more stuff out there. We're good. I have this. Back. I'm telling you, do not stop it. Yes. Dune Imperium, my number 10.
Number 9.
Number 9 is the classic auction game Ra. The mechanism of Ra, as you are acquiring tiles and completing sets and stuff, one of the types of tiles that you are revealing is these Ra tiles. And as this meter fills up, it will signal the end of a round. And so it's very important that you win a certain number of auctions, you use all of your auction tiles before the round ends. If you wait too long, you're going to not get as many tiles as you possibly can. So at some point at the end of the round, somebody is going to be pushing their luck, they're like the last one still in the round, and they'll get whatever they want, as many tiles as they can get for free, basically. But if they get too many of these raw tiles, the round ends and they get nothing. And so everyone cheers, rah, 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 rah. Hoping that they draw the raw tiles before they decide to bail and take what they can of the tiles. And that is lovely fun. Raw, number 9.
Yeah, I should have put this on my list. Good call.
Ooh, nice job.
I'm redeemed.
My number 9, Neuroshima Hex. This is typically a 2-player game in which you're putting hexes that represent different kinds of troops, and their weaponry is around the border of the hex and can impact range and type of weaponry and things like that. And I love dueling games, and Neuroshima Hex is one of those where you got somebody and they're going to drop a sniper on you, and they're kind of smirking at you, and they think they're going to blast you away, and then you got to say, oh yeah, take this net, right? And then you trap the sniper right there, and then you get to hear them groan and moan, and you get to cackle at their pain. And I love that part of Neuroshima Hex. Plus, it's just a really fun tactical game.
Yeah, this is one I don't normally talk trash in because I'm really worried that you've somehow beaten me. I'm like, okay, I got the stuff lined up. Oh, you put that tile down. I'm out.
We'll play. I'll trash talk you plenty.
My number 9 is a sad thing I have to put on here, though. Time's Up. And in Time's Up, I end up trash talking my teammates.
Oh no!
No, I got to be honest here. How can you not possibly know who this person is? And I gave you the most obvious clue in existence, and you did not know it. Get good. So yes, and I've had people yell at me for same purposes. It's really funny. If you want to see teammates trash talk each other, Time's Up is the way to go.
Indeed.
Number 8.
I will admit that my number 8 is a bit of a personal selection for me. That's Flower Power, the Cosmos 2-player game. You're building flower beds, but you have a very specific attack action that you can do. If you have, you've drawn one of these domino-style tiles and you decide not to play it on your side, you can flip it over and play it on your opponent's side of the board as a weed, hopefully blocking off their opportunity to score a larger flower bed, blocking off something that they're building. And when my wife and I would play this, we would certainly get all sweet talking about how wonderful your flower bed was looking. It would be a shame if a weed just sprouted up and like, no, don't do it. No, don't. It just place a weed down there on the bed, and then I'd get a spite weed back at me, and there'd just be, it's flowers, but you're mad at each other. Flower Power, number 8.
I can't even.
Ghost.
How did this make the list? Flower Power?
Spite weeds, I'm telling you. It's all about spite weeds.
The thing is, here on the Dice Tower, we do a lot of top 10s. Many people, both on video and on audio, and some people use every chance they can to put some games on, and Flower Power is one of those games for you.
I'm trying to get it reprinted.
It's never going to happen.
Somebody pick it up. If only someone would restore it in some sort of, restoration.
Subtle. My number 8 is Rock, Paper, Wizard. Pachoo, pachoo! Where you are dueling wizards, fighting wizards. It's not a 2-player game. And you have to cast spells at each other to collect the most gold from the dragon's hoard. And you throw spells using hand signs at each other. And it is ridiculous. And it is super duper fun. And the game just begs you to trash talk throughout it as you're casting spells at each other, but also at the style of other people's spells and things like that. It's super fun, and it's super great for trash talk. Rock, Paper, Wizard.
I don't disagree. This is an underrated game, for sure.
I agree.
Number 8 for me is Western Legends. In this one, you are switching from being on the side of the law to being an outlaw, sometimes on the same turn. And the trash talking in here is constant because you are at odds with pretty much everybody at various points in the game. oh, you'll never take me alive, and oh, I'm sorry, I've turned over a new leaf. That's why I'm shooting you, because I don't want you to follow in the error of the ways that I was in. I enjoy this kind of talk in this game where you can pretty much do anything from the Old West, Western legends.
Number 7.
Number 7 is probably the one that Tom was highlighting from my list. I do enjoy a nice game of Risk. That is where this selection is.
When is the last time you played Risk?
Well, maybe it's been a while. That's not the point. The point is that in Risk, there is a moment in which someone is facing an overwhelming force. They've got like 3 troops in one country, and they're being attacked by 12 of them. But they manage to get the dice rolls. Dice rule this game, and it's possible for a small defending force to win out against an overwhelming force against them, and that is where you start taunting the heck out of that larger force. And you're missing everything. Do you even know what you're shooting at? There's no way you can defeat us. You're just Scotland forever, and you just start yelling. It's all right. Risk, number 7.
This is one I disagree with, not because of the game thing. I was kidding about it, sort of. Anyway, but because the trash talking I've seen in Risk often becomes real.
Okay, all right, I'll admit that.
It's not joking anymore. I've had a lot of people and yelling in Risk, and the laughter stopped halfway through.
Okay.
So you need to read the room.
Well, I mean, you can't stop them from trash talking.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's my thing, is all this is predicated on I try, this is fun, right? And if the people you're interacting with aren't feeding it back or aren't laughing with you, then it's time to rein it back. But I've never had to do that in my number 7 game, Junk Art, because it's a great game, and making fun of each other as we try to stack these different shapes on top of each other is super duper fun. And Junk Art actually has a lot of different game modes in the box. But no matter what mode you're playing, inevitably you're going to be telling your opponents that they're picking the wrong piece, that they can never place it there, that they're fools for even trying. What are they thinking? And you're blowing at them like you might blow over their piece. Well, not in the days of COVID, back in the olden times. And and you all either laugh or cheer or weep when your structures fall. It's a ton of fun. And if you haven't trash talked through Junk Art, you're playing it wrong.
My number 7 is a tie between Funkoverse and Unmatched. I just didn't want to pick one over the other, really. And this also doubles for any kind of tactical game. I almost put Heroescape on my list, but it's hard to get Heroescape. But you roll the dice and you trash talk in the way the character would, whether it's Bruce Lee or Batman or a raptor. I'm not sure how raptors trash talk. Like, I will eat you. But you definitely will find yourself doing it, especially when you manage to stop your opponent from hurting you. Then you're like, now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Number 6 is Pitch Car. Bravado is what this game is all about as you approach your turn and have some sort of amazingly difficult shot that you have to perform in order to pull ahead of somebody on the track. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to miss it and fly off the track. But when you get it, it is amazing, and everybody cheers, and you can, in your face, it's a lot of fun to at least attempt the trash talk in Pitch Car. Number 6.
My number 6, Summoner Wars. And now, hey, with the new Summoner Wars 2nd edition out, it carries over to that. In fact, trash talking is so central to Summoner Wars, they included a trash talking bot in their online implementation of the 2nd edition. Which
what?
You can't. Oh yeah, Eric. If you play against the AI, it trash talks you.
Oh boy.
And it is funny until it's not.
Who programmed that? I wonder who programmed that. I'm curious now.
That wacky pants team at Plaid Hat Games. But hey, Summoner Wars is similar to maybe even Funkoverse or Unmatched or Nurishima Hex, where you've got this kind of head-on-head action that sometimes kinds of calls out for a little bit of competitive trash talking. Summoner Wars has that in spades. It's got all different factions that you're picking from, and from the card play to attacking gates to poor dice rolls and just laughing it up. Summoner Wars is a great trash talking game, and it's official.
My number 6 is Cursed Court. And hear me out. This is an interesting game from Atlas where you are trying to... it's like an auction game, and you're putting down piles of chips to knock other people off from picking who they think is going to be on the court at the end of the game. It's really fun, but just sit there and go, don't you take over from my spot here. Of course, this is some reverse trash talking, because sometimes you want them to overbid you. You're like, don't you dare. I double dog. Thank you. Thank you for overbidding me and giving me my chips back. It's a lot of fun. Cursed Court.
Number 5.
My number 5 is the classic storytelling game, Tales of the Arabian Nights. The trash talk here comes from Schadenfreude, where you are just hoping that your opponents just stumble into some horrible misfortune, and you are cheering for them to make the most wacky decision and hoping that it ends weirdly, like they're turned into a bear or forced to move all the way across the board. And so but then you know that you are just as likely to end up in a similar position when it comes to your turn. So it's a lot of Schadenfreude in Tales of the Arabian Nights, number 5.
My number 5, Robo Rally. If you haven't played Robo Rally, you are missing out. Just play a smaller race is all. In Robo Rally, you are robots in a factory after hours, and you are doing your death race, capture the flag game. And because you're robots in a factory, you can equip yourselves with things like, lasers and flotation and like jetpacks. And you go around, it's a programming game, you set what your robot is going to do, and then you reveal cards one by one. So chances are your perfect plan is going to get thwarted. That shouldn't stop you from laughing maniacally when your opponent gets zapped by a laser, or yelling at them when they zap you and you have to stop and repair. It's a goofy, silly, fabulous game that I have loved for decades, Robo Rally.
The joy of moving somebody's robot one space over onto the opposite direction conveyor belt so that all of their moves are now in the complete wrong direction.
It's better than Christmas.
So deliciously fun. Yeah, it's amazing.
My number 5 is higher on someone else's list, but I'll say this. I just watched a game where someone rolled 4 6s on their first turn.
Wow.
Number 4.
My number 4, the trash talk is right there in the title. It's, hey, that's my fish. The abstract where you're trying to cordon off groups of ice floes that have fish on them, and it's all about, back off, buddy. You think you're hoarding. No, you are not getting that fish. Hey, that's my fish. It's all in good fun, but I get really intense. Number 4, hey, that's my fish.
My number 4, I think there's something about racing games. So when you said pitch car earlier, Eric, I was fully on board with that. There's just something about racing games that brings it out, that energy, that speed. So I've got a tie here. Tom had a tie, so I'm going to claim a tie too. Downforce and Thunder Alley. Now, I want to disclaim, I work with Restoration Games. They produce Downforce, so please take this with a grain of salt. But these are 2 racing games that I absolutely adore. And it's the kind of, no, it's not reverse trash talk, but it's the kind of trash talk that you do when somebody has completely hosed you over and you just have to express your fury with them. Whether it's in Downforce and somebody moves your car for you, oh yay, and blocks you off at a choke point, or in Thunder Alley if somebody's drafting off of your action and moving more efficiently, and they're just lazing behind you, using you for their they get me every time in Thunder Alley. Racing games, great for trash talk, and these are 2 great racing games.
That's good. I have nothing to say here. My number 4, Vabank. It's a fun bluffing game, and the trash talking is like, yes, I'm going to steal from that table. Go there. Give me your money. it sounded more fun trash talkiness in my head. Suzanne's was better, so let's just go to number 3.
Number 3.
My number 3 proves it's possible to trash talk with very little talking. And that is with Stop Thief, specifically the one versus many mode of Stop Thief, where you have one player who is hiding and moving around the board and needs to be caught by the other players. They're making moves in the app, making secret moves, trying to dodge and juke and lead people down the wrong path. And while the group is discussing where could they possibly be, I think they could have gone this way, but what if they didn't? And the one player is just sitting there sort of chuckling softly to themselves. That is just as effective as getting in somebody's face and saying, "You're never going to find me, are you?" When you're just like, this is what my son does to me all the time, and it drives me crazy. Stop Thief, number 3.
I've heard that you get the children you deserve, Eric.
Wait, what?
What?
My number 3 is higher on somebody else's list. And I gotta say, I'm pretty shocked at how much restraint Tom showed on this one.
Well, yes. Okay, there is that. My number 3 is a game that's in the Dice Tower Essentials line, and I really like it, called Good Critters. In this game, each round, there's a bunch of money. One person's the president. They decide how the money's split between all the players, and then everyone votes yes, no, overthrow the president. And there's so much trash talking. I'm like, if you don't give me more money, then this is it. You're no longer president. I will take this over. It's really fun. This game has not got a lot of buzz, but I really like playing Good Critters.
Number 2.
My number 2 was Suzanne's number 3 and Tom's number 5, but I get to talk about Can't Stop. Again, the trash talk is right there in the title. You're rolling dice and moving up your little markers on the track, but you don't lock those positions in until you stop. And everybody else at the table doesn't want you to stop. They want you to keep going so that you bust and make no progress for the turn. So anytime somebody pauses and is like, should I go one more roll? Oh, no, you must continue. And while you are hoping that you roll usable numbers, everyone else is going, please roll the thing you can't use. Come on, bust, wipe out. Can't Stop. Number 2.
Yeah, this was Suzanne's number 3 and my number 5. It's the only 3-way crossover we have.
Yeah, and I'm shocked it was so low on your list, to be honest, Tom.
Oh, my 5? Yeah, I know. But, yeah, like I said, I saw someone roll 4 6s. That's very impressive.
That is.
And
but it still only moves you up twice on the board, so somebody could still pass you.
That's true. And if that happens, I don't care how good your first roll was.
My number 2, it had to be high on my list. I cannot think of another board game that I have gotten, quote unquote, angrier in than Game of 49. Game of 49 is a cross between an auction game and a bingo game in which you win if you get 4 of your color tokens in a row on this little numbered board. The way you get your tokens on the board is cards are flipped over randomly, and then that spot on the board is auctioned off. So if the card 37 is flipped over, spot 37 is auctioned off. It's closed economy. You only have so much money in the game, and you are trying to outbid each other strategically. There's a lot of like, I don't have enough money. Joe's got more money than me. Eric, if you don't get that spot, Joe's gonna win in a turn. You gotta do it. And then the next card flips over, and it's the one that you need to win, and then I take your spot, and then you yell at me. I played a game of 49 where I wasn't really angry, but I physically tried to flip the table, but then I pulled a muscle because the table was like bolted to the floor of the game store.
What is going on?
But it would have been impressive if I'd managed to do it. Game of 49 is
Suzanne hulked out.
Game of 49 is a fabulous fun game. Don't get me wrong, folks. This game is awesome. It's simple, it's quick, it's fun. I love it to death. And it is rife for trash talking.
Well, it seems like it's necessary for everyone to have a racing game on the list because it's really the truth of it. I thought about many games. I thought about Downforce. I thought about Formula D, but I settled on Ave Caesar because you are such a jerk in this game to everybody else. You stop your car in front of them on purpose. It is, and then you're like, yeah, pass me now. Oh, you can't pass me. When it comes to someone's turn, you're like, so how far are you going to move? You can't do anything. I'm so sorry. I love it. Ave Caesar, my number 2.
And finally, number 1.
All right, number 1 for Tom and me is a sync up, and that is King of Tokyo, which was the first game that came to my mind when I was thinking of Trash Talk. It is a rock'em sock'em, duke 'em up monster battle game where you're rolling dice and trying to attack the other players, and don't attack me. They've got 18 points. You got to take them out. Earning power-ups and extra heads and laser beams from your eyes and just, when you take control of Tokyo, come at me, and making monster noises. It is a blast to trash talk in King of Tokyo. My number 1.
Everything Eric said, I agree. My number 1 also.
It was unfortunately not my number 1. My number 1 is actually Magic: The Gathering. I've played a lot of Magic in my life, and hey, time and place, folks. Know your space. I don't play competitively. I only play with good friends in which it's kind of that rapport is already established. I would never go to, say, a pre-release event or a tournament.
Oh, my word.
And trash talk.
Yeah, I was worried for a second.
Time and place. But the reality is I play Magic casually. I play with very, very dear friends. We have so much fun together. And holy cow, it's like, oh yeah, you think you're going to throw that big old creature my way? Well, take this. And then you manage to do some amazing spell combo that just blasts it off of the plate. Or if you've got these, 37 wolf tokens and you do some kind of death spell and they're all wiped up and it's just, there's so much rich opportunity for trash talk in Magic: The Gathering. Just pick your group, pick your time.
That's the moral of this entire list.
That's the truth of it. All righty, let's see what the people chose. This is super interesting. Here we go. Number 20. And by the way, you can vote in these, folks. You can go to our website right now, TheOp.games, and vote. Number 20, Seven Wonders Duel. That seems legit.
Sure.
Okay.
19, Deception Murder in Hong Kong. You trash talk everyone. You're like, that Eric's the murderer. Eric's like, I'm not the murderer. It's Suzanne. Suzanne says, it's Tom. I'm like, you're right. It's me. No, you just go around and everyone's accusing everybody. It's fun. 18, Ink and Gold.
Yeah. Somebody stays in, you're hoping they bust. Yeah.
17, Magic: The Gathering.
All right.
There you go. 16, Pitch Car. 15, Can't Stop, 4-way crossover. 14, The Resistance. I mean, a lot of social deduction games fall into this. 13, No Thanks. Yeah, I guess there is a lot of that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Solid one.
Are you kidding me? You just took the chips.
Yeah. I was out of money.
12.
That was my card.
12 is Monopoly, which is, a reasonable thing. I know a lot of people yell at Monopoly. But number 11, chess.
Whoa.
What's going on?
I mean,
Did you
street
watch
chess
the
can
Queen's
get,
Gambit?
from the movies I've seen, searching for Bobby Fischer, street chess looks pretty trash talky.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess there's not an entry on Board Game Geek for street chess. All right. Number 10, Cosmic Encounter, of course. Number 9, Star Realms.
For sure.
I guess you're just slapping her. 8, Cash and Guns. Yes. 7, Blood Rage. I do trash talk.
Okay.
Rage. You trash talking
My
everything,
sea monster
Tom.
will destroy you.
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, there's a game coming up I don't trash talk it. But anyway. Number 6, Secret Hitler. I haven't played it, so I don't know. 5, Poker.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Aren't people normally quiet in poker, though?
No, I mean, if you think of like a poker night where a bunch of friends get together and they're, I'm going to take all your money. That's what I'm going to do.
This is the one that throws me off. 4 is Code Names.
Huh?
Is it just maybe it's the same thing I did for Time's Up, where you yell at your teammate for such a bad clue.
Fair.
Maybe. Intimidation 2.
No, it's more like Intimidation 9. Like, wait, what? And then you pick. The ones that always crack me up at code names is when someone will say something like animal 4. I'm like, oh, good. So you put on lion, and they're like, no. You're like, well, wait, what?
Not that one.
That's usually like,
Not that
I
animal.
didn't see that card.
Yeah.
3 is Bang the Dice Game. Sam Healy must be voting.
Yeah.
2 is Sheriff of Nottingham, which I thought about putting on the list. And 1, a 3-way crossover for number 1, King of Tokyo.
Roar.
All right, folks. Well, that is our Trash Talking Games. You got more thoughts on this? Let us know on our forums. We love to hear from you. And Suze, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's time to go into Q4 is still a little bit away, but it's coming. Oh, my. Well, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 726, was recorded on September 2nd, 2021. Mandy and Suzanne are with you next week, and in 2 weeks, Tom is traveling to Gen Con, so my partner in crime from Dice Tower Tonight, Crystal Dax, will join me for a top 10 games that can be played in 30 minutes or less. Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you. Thank you for spreading the word. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. Find out more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Mandy, Suzanne, and Eric, with production assistance from Roy Kennedy, Mike Delisio, Chris Yee, and Rob Seary. Our theme was composed by Timothy Pinkham. Our confusion over what variety of rock to get brought to you by Which Stone? And hosting is provided by Game Nerds, your all-in-one solution for all your nerdy needs at GameNerds.com. We love feedback. Visit the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com. Email us at tom@Dicetower.com, Suzanne at Dicetower.com, or Eric at Dicetower.com, or follow us on Facebook. And, of course, you can find more from the Dice Tower Network, including Tabletop Game Talk, Dukes of Dice, Board Games Insider, the D6 Generation, Solo BG, Ludology, and Dice Tower Now at Dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. You know, after all this trash talk, I think I need a hug.
Aw, we love you, Eric.
You don't deserve a hug.
Oh, I was a terrible teammate.